Aloha, you're listening to Chad Ford's NBA Big Board on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today we're talking NBA Draft 2021 Rookie of the Year. Let's go. Aloha, this is Chad Ford, and you can find me and my work over at Chad Ford's NBA Big Board, where you can subscribe to a newsletter that I have and lots of other great stuff talking about the 2022 NBA Draft, as well as covering the NBA and a lot of stuff that's related to rookies and stuff in the 2021 NBA Draft. And actually, that's what I want to talk about today in my podcast and sort of handicap the 2021 Rookie of the Year race. And we know that Cade Cunningham went number one in the draft, but we want to look at which guys are going to be the contenders to be Rookie of the Year next year. And it doesn't always really apply to draft order. And so I did some research looking into what really makes a Rookie of the Year. And really three things really stood out to me. One is opportunity, right? You have to actually have minutes, significant minutes, and a significant role on your team. And if you look over the last couple of years for the Rookie of the Year race, you're going to see that at 27 minutes a game seems to be the threshold that we're looking at for players right now. In 2019, it was 27.8. 2018, it was 30 minutes a game. And so the first thing that we're scouring is this player going to get significant like starter minutes and a great role on their team? It's very difficult to crack Rookie of the Year, no matter how talented you are without those minutes. The second key metric is really points per game. So in 2018, the top three scored, I think, 16.3 points per game. 2019, top three vote getters for Rookie of the Year had 15.3 points a game. 2020 was only 13 points a game. But that was in part because 13 points per game was the third highest scoring mark for any rookie that season. And so if you look at the past 8 years, the winner was in the top three and usually the top two in scoring for Rookies of the Year. So not only is it going to be minutes, but the opportunity to actually score the basketball. And does the player have the ability to be a big time scorer? Sort of the next thing that we're going to look at. And he also found that if you go back and sort of look at some of the work that Kevin Pelton has done at ESPN, for almost every season, the combined averages of points, rebounds, and assists per game, when you add those averages together, that's the player that's going to win the award. And then finally, look, when you're looking at Rookie of the Year, you're not actually talking about the player that's going to be the best player in 5 years. If you go back and look at past winners, that's often just not the case. It's the player that's going to have the most opportunity to really hit those metrics of scoring, minutes per game, and then those sort of combined stats together that's going to win Rookie of the Year. And so that's going to change, to me, the draft order a little bit about who we're going to handicap again for Rookie of the Year. And again, I'm not saying that the player that we're talking about here is going to be the best player in this draft in 5 years, or that a team made a mistake taking a player higher or lower than him. All I'm really talking about is, given the current parameters of their team right now, which players are most likely to have that sort of big time success in the NBA that is going to lead to winning Rookie of the Year. And to me, that means that I think that Jalen Green from the Houston Rockets, who went number 2 in the draft, has the best opportunity to win Rookie of the Year. One, because he's an elite scorer. He's probably the best scorer in this draft, and he is going to get significant opportunities on this Houston Rockets team. I expect him to start. I expect him to be the focal point of the offense next year. And when you combine that with his just natural scoring skills, I think it's pretty easy to see that Jalen Green might be able to crack upwards of 20 points a game as a rookie. He's also got this chip on his shoulder for not going number one in the draft. And he seems to be very focused on proving everybody wrong right now, proving that Cade Cunningham should not have gone number one to Detroit, that the Pistons made a mistake on him. And a lot of times when players play with that chip on their shoulder, there's that sort of extra motivation to go out there and win this award. And it seems like Jalen Green is focused on winning this award. What could derail Jalen Green? I think there's a couple of things. One, does he come off the bench right away? I think he's going to be the starter, but there is Kevin Porter Jr. in the backcourt. It depends a lot on what they're going to do with John Wall and whether the Rockets are going to have him play a leading role for this team. That could cut into his minutes and opportunity a little bit. He needs to add strength. He had a little bit of minor injury in the summer league. And so obviously staying healthy is part of that. You really do need to play roughly around 60 to 65 games to actually be in consideration for Rookie of the Year. And so that is something that could derail Jalen Green as well. But I still think if I were to bet on this right now, which player is most likely to be Rookie of the Year, I would go with Jalen Green. At two, it's Cade Cunningham, who was the number one pick in the draft. And obviously, he is also going to get a major role on the Detroit Pistons this year. I think he is their best player long term, but depending on how you feel about Jeremy Grant, might just be the best player on the Pistons roster in general. It's easy to kind of project him scoring somewhere between 17, 20 points a night. And he's got that one elite skill that I think is going to, at least it looked like in the summer league and his freshman year at Oklahoma State, that's going to translate, which is his shooting ability. And if he can shoot anywhere near that 40 percentile mark from three, I think it's going to be easy to see how he projects out. And then things get interesting from there. I think there's still some question marks about who's going to be the lead ball handler in Detroit. I know the Pistons are talking about they're just going to have multiple lead ball handlers, and sometimes it's going to be Killian Hayes, sometimes it's going to be Cade Cunningham, just depending on the situation. But if you get to a point where he becomes the sort of lead ball handler, the way that like LaMelo Ball did in Charlotte as a rookie, then I think his chances go up if he does that well. And I think there's a legitimate question mark if you're asking, sort of what would be the downside for Cade Cunningham is that he had a high turnover rate at Oklahoma State. He had a high turnover rate when you look at what his play was in the summer league. And if the Pistons give him the ball and ask him to really create for others, and that turnover rate soars to another underwater assist to turnover ratio, that could be something that could sort of be a negative mark for Cunningham. And to be honest with you, I'm just not sure what that's going to ultimately be for him. I know the sort of hype coming out of high school that, he was a point guard, a big point guard. I think that you can make the right argument that at Oklahoma State, he just didn't really have the talent around him. And so he would have dished out a lot more assists, but he just couldn't do it because he just didn't really have the talent around him. I guess you can make that argument in the summer league as well, is that there just wasn't the talent around to finish the great passes that Cade Cunningham made. I'm not sure that's going to be the argument at the NBA level, though. Again, he's in some ways kind of playing with the summer league squad for Detroit. And so that will be really interesting to see where he comes out of it here. I do think that there's more sizzle to Jalen Green's game. I think there's more opportunities for Jalen Green to actually be the guy that leads in points and what have you. I do think that Cade Cunningham could put up a more complete box score, which if, again, you go back to Kevin Pelton's theory that you take assists, rebounds, and points and average those together and then look at who has the highest number, and that guy is most likely going to win Rookie of the Year. You could see Cunningham being a better rebounder, higher assist rate than Jalen Green, and maybe eking it out. I'm going to err with Jalen Green, but I do think Cade Cunningham could be a very close second. And then I think the third guy and the other guy that I would put as, another favorite would be Jalen Suggs or the Orlando Magic. He's one of the most NBA ready players that we're going to see in the draft, even though he's 19 years old. The toughness, the two-way defensive play that he's going to get it done on both ends. He's a natural leader. He's an alpha player. I won't be surprised at all if he ends up sort of being the lead guard for the Magic and really sort of running this offense for them early on. There is some crowdedness in the Magic backcourt, which is why you put him at 3. He is a guy who will defer more than a Jalen Green or a Cade Cunningham will, which means that maybe he's not going to have the same scoring average that you see from a Cade Cunningham, for example, or a Jalen Green. And so it's possible that his numbers are going to be depressed a little bit. And even though he might impact winning more than either of those players in year one, that's harder for voters to quantify. And maybe that's why he ends up maybe third or fourth in the MVP race. And so those are the top 3 guys that I see potentially winning Rookie of the Year. I want to talk about some other candidates when we come back. But first, I want to talk to you about DirecTV Stream, one of our new sponsors. When you think about DirecTV Stream, you've got this one device that lets you catch games live. You have another one that lets you stream your favorite shows. You're watching sport highlights on your phone, and you got your neighbor's best friend log in for all the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all the entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings together your live TV on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes, no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter, the confusion, get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more about directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. I actually subscribe to DirecTV Stream, and I really love the service. And so I hope you check it out too. Okay, now we're back. We're talking about the Rookie of the Year race for the 2021-22 season. We're talking about the rookies that were just drafted in the 2021 draft. And we talked about the three favorites early on, which was Jalen Green, number one, Cade Cunningham, number two, Jalen Suggs, number three. Now I want to talk about some other guys that I think could potentially be contenders. And one that I'm watching carefully is Davion Mitchell, that went number 9 in the draft, the point guard that's playing for Sacramento right now. He's the most NBA ready player in the draft, in my opinion. He's one of the best on the ball defenders in the league. He's not an elite scorer, but I really think he knows how to find his spots. And if his 3-point shooting is as accurate as we saw it during his junior season at Baylor and during the summer league, I really think that he could put up numbers. I also think there's this sort of interesting thing going on with Sacramento right now. They have a crowded backcourt, and if you want to make an argument against Davion Mitchell, you've got De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton and Buddy Hield in that backcourt, all who have more experience, all who are likely to play ahead of him when you have minutes there in the backcourt. I don't know. I think that some GMs around the league think that maybe De'Aaron Fox could be on the move, that this is a way for them to add talent. We talked about here on my Chad Ford's NBA bigboard.com about 3 potential trades that could shake up the start of the season. One of those was Ben Simmons to Sacramento. And, obviously Ben Simmons is in the news a lot right now, and there's a lot of talk about where he's going to go. And I've had several general managers just point to the Kings and say, I think this makes the most sense for both teams right now. I know that Philadelphia has been holding out for a superstar like a Damian Lillard or a Bradley Beal, but they don't really seem to be getting the traction there. De'Aaron Fox is a type of player that is a young point guard with all-star potential, but has enough experience under his belt that he can probably help them right now. Ben Simmons comes in. That's a big shakeup there because I think you could play him as a small ball 5, or you could play him at the 4. Have Davion Mitchell, Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield in that backcourt together. And there's a way that this sort of makes sense for both teams, especially on a Kings team that was historically one of the worst defensive teams in the history of the NBA last year. Adding Ben Simmons seems like the right sort of gamble for a team like Sacramento that wants to break that 15-year playoff drought. And with Davion Mitchell there as well, I just think that there's a lot that makes a lot of sense for Sacramento. And while I don't absolutely love it for Philadelphia, I think they're going to come to a head. I think this thing can get ugly in Philadelphia. I don't see Damian Lillard or Bradley Beal heading to Philadelphia right now. So De'Aaron Fox and a bunch of other prospects, draft picks or whatever might be sort of the best deal that you can get for Philadelphia right now. So I definitely think it's something that they should consider. And it's certainly, if that were to be the case and something like that would happen, then I think Davion Mitchell's chances of going higher as far as Rookie of the Year award goes increase. At 5, I've got Evan Mobley for the Cavs. He went number 3, and frankly, a guy that I didn't see a lot of space between him and Cade Cunningham for the number 1 pick in the draft. But we knew Mobley was less likely to have that huge impact in year 1 than Cade Cunningham. He needs to add strength. And in addition, there's some significant questions about what his role is going to be right now in Cleveland with Jared Allen in the front court, Larry Markkinen, who they just traded for in a sign-in trade as well. It's a bit of a crowded front court. I do think that there's minutes for all 3 players, but is Mobley going to get a lead role, especially when you have ball-dominant guards like Colin Sexton, for example, and Darius Garland in that backcourt as well? Is he going to get the touches and the opportunity to really score the basketball in a way that's going to put him in serious contention for the number 1 pick? But It doesn't mean that I'm not high on Mobley. He's a dominant hybrid big man. He can score from anywhere on the floor. He's a solid rim protector, a decent rebounder. He could put up some really significant numbers. I was really impressed with his passing in the summer league as well. And so while I'm really, really high on his future, I just think it's a little bit harder to figure out how Mobley is going to be able to put up numbers like Cade Cunningham or Jalen Green or Jalen Suggs to be able to get there for them. But look, I think most scouts would say that they were surprised with his productivity at USC and that he showed better there than they expected as well. And so maybe we're underestimating Evan Mobley, and maybe he should be a little bit higher. Uh, at 6, this one's probably a little bit more controversial, and it's just based off of both opportunity and what I saw in the summer league. But Alperen Sengun, the center for the Rockets at 6, a guy who won the Turkish League MVP, not Rookie of the Year, but Turkish League MVP at 18 years old, which is a really significant feat. And probably, in my opinion, might be the most NBA ready prospect that maybe him and like Chris Duarte that you're going to actually sort of see, and Davion Mitchell, of course. He showed really well, I thought, in the summer league. He's advanced offensively. I think he's sort of an offensive savant in many ways. And I was actually really surprised with his solid defense, rebounding, and frankly, shot blocking that we saw as well. Now, look, there's some challenges. There's Christian Wood, who is going to be the starting center for the Rockets next year. He's only 25, 26 years old. And so certainly, it's not like Sengun is going to be able to push him out. And you wonder, especially even if they do like Sengun, whether they're going to showcase Wood in an attempt to, get a trade for him later in the season. And, there is definite question marks about whether he is going to be able to hang defensively in the NBA, and especially early on in his career, whether that could impact his minutes. He looked okay in the summer league, but again, he was playing against summer league players and summer league bigs. He wasn't playing against elite athletes. He wasn't playing against people that were explosive, that had the strength and the quickness that could pose him real problems in the NBA. And so Sengun is sort of an outlier for me, but I think the analytics point to him having a big season. I think the talent is there. I do think at some point during the season, they're going to be able to find the opportunities for him to shine. And so he's my real sleeper, I think, when you're thinking about who might be a guy that could ultimately be Rookie of the Year. All right, so that's 6 guys, and frankly, I think probably the most likely 6 guys that we're going to see in the Rookie of the Year race. And before we jump into the last 4 guys, I want to talk about 2 more of our sponsors, starting with Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questions and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouses happen to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30, 50, or even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? They have everything you need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. I also want to talk to you about one of our other sponsors, Built Bar, who has 9 delicious flavors. And when you talk about Built Bar fans, they're definitely passionate about their faves. There's coconut, coconut almond, cherry, raspberry, mint brownie, peanut butter brownie, double chocolate, salted caramel. There's something for everyone. I'm a huge coconut guy. I love Mounds bars, and these things taste like candy bars. They're soft, they're chewy. The chocolate is rich. And the crazy thing about them is, though they taste like a candy bar, they're actually pretty healthy for you. Most flavors have 19 grams of protein, only 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar, only 4 grams of net carbs. So order today. Get that raspberry brownie, get the coconut, whatever it is you like. Go to builtbar.com and use promo code LOCK15. You'll get 15% off your first order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at builtbar.com. Okay, so we're wrapping up our talk about Rookie of the Year right now and ranking the top 10 Rookie of the Year candidates right now. We've gone through 6 players right now. So we've talked about Jalen Green. We've talked about Cade Cunningham. We've talked about Jalen Suggs. We've talked about Davion Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Alperen Sengun of the Rockets. The last 3 guys are are long shots. I just don't think there's any other way to sort of talk about it. And part of it is that you start to run out of real playing opportunities for rookies. So we talked at the top about you need minutes. You need the ability to be featured on the offense so that you can score the basketball. That historically, those two things have needed to happen for players to win Rookie of the Year. And after you get past those six guys, it looks like opportunities might be more limited for some of the other prospects that we're talking about right now. So their talent level might be worthy of that if they were in a different situation. But because of the lack of opportunity, they might not be able to put up the same sort of numbers. At 7, I have Chris Duarte, the wing out of the Pacers, and along with Davion Mitchell and Alperen Sengun, to me, are the guys that have like the most NBA ready skills right now. Duarte is already 24 years old, which is ridiculously old for a rookie. He could be on his second contract if he had left for the draft at 19 years old. And he was great in the summer league. He looked like he's going to be an immediate 3-and-D sort of wing and have impact sort of on both ends of the basketball. And really, it's just minutes and role that I think are going to be the issue for him. We've got TJ Warren, you got Karis LeVert, you got Jeremy Lamb. All of those guys could keep Duarte from seeing the floor enough to get the minutes or points to be a really strong candidate. I do think he's going to be an impact player in year one. I think this is exactly why the Pacers drafted him here. Rick Carlisle really wanted a player that could step in and play right away. And I think he's got the talent to do that. It's just going to be whether the minutes are there. And, injuries, lots of different things could impact that. And he can move up this list if he's got a bigger opportunity. But that's the big concern for me, for him. At 8, I've got Josh Giddey, the Thunder. Now, this is an actual real opportunity guy. Like, he is going to get significant minutes on the Thunder next season. I don't think there's any question about that. My question is he going to be able to do enough of the things that voters typically look for from a Rookie of the Year to be actually in serious contention right now? So we know the minutes are going to be there. The elite passing is there. And, maybe he's going to have like a LaMelo Ball type, highlight reel play offensively that helps get him and generate some buzz. I don't think he's quite the creative passer that LaMelo Ball is. I think he's a very, very good one. I'm just not sure that he has the sort of same feel and instincts that LaMelo does. They're great, but maybe not elite. His strong play in Australia said that, okay, maybe he's more ready than most. He actually had a really good rookie season in the professional league in Australia right now. But I'm questioning the rest of his game. Shooting and defense still need a lot of work. Even with a lot of minutes, it's possible he's just not going to be able to put up the points necessary on this roster. And, let's see how the ball handling duties are shared with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Shai is just really, to me, the more ball dominant player right now, which means Giddey's probably playing more off the ball, which I don't necessarily think is his strength. I also think Theo Maledon is a guy who could certainly come in and take some of those ball handling duties as well. He's in his second year, and all of that might push Giddey just a little bit further down in his ability to produce those big numbers that NBA voters tend to look at when they're picking Rookie of the Year. And 9, I've got Scottie Barnes out of the Raptors. Number 4, a guy that I see as being potentially one of the best players in this draft 5 years down the road, but not quite as NBA ready as some of the other prospects that we've been talking about here. And a kind of unusual fit in Toronto right now. They've got at least 8 players on the roster who will be getting significant minutes, and that's before counting Barnes. And not sure that he's going to be a starter. He is the sort of guy that could be sneaky in that when you add up his points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks, he might like really surprise some people in that he can put up a really solid box score all the way through, but I'm just not sure that he's going to be a big enough time scorer. And I think with that shaky jump shot that we're still sort of feeling out for him and question right now, like where is he even going to play for them right now? I think he can be everything from a big point guard to a small ball center and anything in between. And, whether the Raptors are going to use him, at the 3, at the 4, Pascal Siakam is going to be out for a little bit, which maybe is going to open up some opportunities for him early on. I think he's the sort of guy that is a wild card here because the talent to be Rookie of the Year is clearly there, but just so many questions about opportunity, style of play, fit, what have you. I think that we're probably going to be buzzing more about Scottie Barnes like 3 years into his career, sort of in the same way we were with Giannis, than maybe his first season on the court. And then finally, this guy went late in the first round, but led all rookie scorers in the summer league. That's Cam Thomas, the two guard, who was drafted by the Brooklyn Nets. And if rookie of the year voters reward and value scoring, then Cam Thomas is going to be one of the two or three best scorers in this draft. He doesn't need a lot of minutes to put up big numbers. He might theoretically be one of the few guys that could come off the bench and still put up numbers that could be really intriguing, because I think he's got some like Lou Williams-esque, to his game of just being this microwave scorer that can just come in and do things. And maybe there's going to be a bigger opportunity there. James Harden, Kyrie Irving, they've had injury histories in the past that suggest that there might be more opportunities and minutes for Cam Thomas than it just sort of currently looks in their roster. And if there's a knock against Cam, it's going to be Brooklyn's going to be competing for a championship. How many minutes and how much time are they going to give to a rookie? There's also veterans like Bruce Brown, DeAndre Bembry, Javon Carter, Patty Mills in that backcourt as well. And so it's just possible that those great summer league numbers just aren't going to translate enough to the NBA that he's going to actually earn the minutes to stay on the floor and play well for the Nets. And so that's my top 10 guys. Obviously, there could be another guy or two that could really sort of pop in the mix. We didn't expect, or at least I didn't expect, Emmanuel Quickley to be a potential Rookie of the Year candidate last year. And so, there's always, one or two guys that are going to sneak up on you, and opportunity arises that you don't think is there. But I feel pretty solid at the top that at the end of the day, we're probably going to be talking about Jalen Green. We're going to be talking about Cade Cunningham, and we'll probably be talking about Jalen Suggs as the most likely contenders for the 2021-22 Rookie of the Year award. You can read more about the Rookie of the Year award over on my website, NBABigBoard.com. I'm also going through right now the 2022 NBA draft and looking at a lot of different prospects right now. We've covered returning college players, college freshmen. We just did a cool article on the G League as well. We'll talk a little bit later in September about the overtime elite and international prospects as well. And so as you're starting to prime for the 22 NBA draft, lots of great stuff there. And if you're following the rookies or sophomores or even the juniors right now in the NBA, we're also going to have a lot of great coverage over at NBABigBoard.com as well. You've been listening to Chad Ford's NBA Big Board on the Locked On Podcast Network. Aloha.